Hey, it's Sean from IQ Barbecue, and today we're making a breakfast fatty. It's gonna be so good. It's egg, cheese, bacon, some vegetables all rolled up in a bacon weave. It's gonna be incredible. Stay tuned. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute some vegetables, some ham, and just get a little bit of color on them and also release some of those juices so that all that liquid doesn't go into our fatty. So I have a saucepan, some avocado oil. I'm going to put some onions. I've got a red and a yellow bell pepper as well, and then some ham. And we're going to let that just get a little bit of color to it. We're not looking to cook this fully, so we want this to have just a little bit of color, but not too much. Okay, then we'll add a little bit of salt and pepper to it. Remember, season it every step. All right, let those continue to cook down. Okay, so while the ham and the vegetables are cooking down, let's go ahead and make our bacon weave. And this couldn't be easier. So basically you have 7 strips of bacon. Usually there's 14 strips in a 1 pound package, so it actually works out well. It's the right length and height to make 7 by 7. So we've got 7 strips here. So we'll start with the first strip going horizontal. What we're going to do is we're going to just peel back every other piece of bacon. And we'll take our next strip of bacon here and we'll lay it right across. And then put those pieces of bacon back. And you're finished with your first step. Now we're going to go down, going alternating pieces of bacon. Take another strip across. Sorry guys, this bacon is not exactly the best in the world as far as staying together here. And actually I'm going to move that up just a little bit here. You want to try to get these pieces of bacon as tight as you can, that weave. So if you can get it up a little higher here, that would be good. Pull this bacon back. All right, and on the next step. Now again, alternating pieces. Okay, when you're done, it should look something like this. Again, just weeding in and out each piece. Don't worry if you have some of these little small pieces, because we're going to roll this up. And remember, you want to make sure you have this on parchment paper. You can also use like cling film as well, but something that you can grab onto and help you roll it up when your filling's ready, okay? So, okay. And this is exactly what your vegetables to look like. Just a little bit of color on them, sweat it down a little bit, and they're good. So now we'll put these aside on the cool side of the grill, and let's start on our eggs. Okay, so now we're gonna make the eggs. And this is something we're gonna do a little bit differently. This is how I make all my scrambled eggs. I just prefer them this way. They come out more moist, they're fluffier, and this is perfect for this recipe that we don't want them completely cooked, because we're gonna cook them again on the Weber smoke fire when they're inside the fatty for probably an hour, so we don't want them to dry out. Basically pushing all of our cooked egg to the front of the pan, and that's gonna make our eggs fluffy and moist. It's perfect for this recipe, but it's great for making scrambled eggs this way every time. I have 6 eggs here. I have them separated between the yolks and the whites. To the whites, I'm going to add about a ½ teaspoon of sugar. I mixed up some cornstarch and water. Add that as well. A little bit of white pepper. A little bit of sesame oil. And, of course, salt. Now we're going to take the whites and we're going to whisk these up. And we want them to get just a little bit frothy, not too much, but just a little bit. Going to kind of get them to be cloudy with a little bit of bubbles in the top. That's what you're looking for. Okay, about like that. We'll take our yolks, put them back into the whites. Just going to kind of break up the yolks in here. Just lightly give it a stir to combine these till it looks something like that. Now we're going to put these in our saucepan over medium heat. Again, avocado oil. So part of the technique here was how we mix them. The other part here is going to be how we cook them. So we'll put our eggs into our pan. Okay, so when we're making these eggs, the next part of this is how we cook them. So we're going to let this cook just like we're doing an omelet. Get the sides with a little bit of color on them. Get the center to start to cook. Get kind of these pooling looks. And then we're going to take a spatula. We're going to go to one side here. We're just going to push forward. And we do that, all that uncooked egg grabs or falls into the inside here. And that's all I want to do. Now just leave it. And we're going to do that same technique probably 3 or 4 times. See, it kind of starts to to bind a little bit, then push it forward. And you're just going to do this until there's no more liquefied egg to kind of backfill down in here. And then this doesn't take very long at all, just a couple minutes. I'll tell you what, that's perfect. So we'll turn off the heat because they don't need to cook any more than that. Scrape off any of the excess you have here. So now we'll set those eggs aside. Let's get back to our bacon. Now let's go ahead and add our sausage. And the way I do this is you can add your sausage right to the top of the bacon. But if you do that when you're spraying the sausage out, it tends to kind of mess up the weave part of it. So I usually put a piece of parchment paper over the top of it and then just squeeze out my sausage. We're just using 1/16 ounce, 1 pound of breakfast sausage. And I'll just move the sausage out and until I get, kind of the same size as the weave. I want to leave maybe an inch border all the way around the weave so I can just see bacon basically around the border of it. And I like to do this on top. This way I can kind of see the bacon underneath it and I can get an idea of how much I need to spread this out. Okay, and about like that should be good. Now, you can simply peel this off like so. And then what I do is I just flip this over right on top of my bacon. Pull it off of the parchment paper. Parchment paper's kind of binding up on me a little bit here. And I'll just kind of move it around a little bit here to get it centered the way I want it. Got a little more sausage in that corner than I wanted, so we'll just move that over, no biggie. I'm looking for something that looks just like that. Okay, so next step, we're gonna put a little bit of seasoning on our bacon and just some of our SPG seasoning. If you want the recipe to that will be in the description down below. About like that is good. Okay, now our vegetables. So we have here our vegetables and our ham. Remember, we sauteed it a little bit, which just gave it a little bit of color, which is perfect. Gonna add that into our fatty here. There we go. Now when you fill this, you've got to be a little careful that you don't overfill it. It's so easy to put too much of everything in here and then you won't be able to roll it up. So just kind of keep in mind as you're doing this not to go overboard. Okay, so our vegetables on there. Now we'll take a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese and put that right over the top there. All right. And now lastly, our eggs. Didn't think I was going to need all of those eggs, and that was absolutely true. And you can see just how moist these eggs are. They have so much moisture on them. This is the way you want to cook all your eggs. And you can break them up into smaller pieces like a traditional scramble. I just kind of like them to be a little bit larger pieces for this particular recipe. Now lastly, a little more of our rub. Beautiful. Now, kind of the fun part, to roll this thing up. And to do this, pretty simple. You're basically going to take the back side here and you're going to kind of just pull it up to the top here and start to roll it over. And as you roll it over, just keep pulling back. This is why the parchment paper works so good for this. Because as you get this thing rolled, what you'll do here is now just pull your parchment paper out and get stuck underneath it and continue to roll. Just like that. Now we'll pull our parchment paper out of the bottom. You should be left with something that looks just like that. Okay, so now we'll get our parchment paper out of the bottom there. I tell you, we couldn't put much more in here. This is about as full as you're gonna be able to get this thing. But this is really, to me, the perfect size breakfast fatty. Basically that 7x7 is just perfect for this. Now, a couple things you can do here, and I would just, as a time saver, you can make this the night before. You don't have to, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and start making this. Make this the night before and just put it in the refrigerator. When you're ready in the morning, take it out and put it right on your smoker, put it right on your oven. Doesn't really matter where you cook it. It's gonna come out great either way. If you're gonna want that smoke flavor, you're not gonna put it on a smoker, just add a little bit of liquid smoke to your eggs. Easy way to add a little bit of smoke flavor to it. Works just perfect. So now the one thing we do have to deal with here is the ends, because the ends are going to be open. and I'll kind of turn that so you can see it. The ends basically are just open here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tuck this bacon in to the inside like so. And then what I will do is put a couple toothpicks in there just to hold those slices in place. This way it doesn't just essentially kind of just explode out of the sides as it cooks down. You don't have to add the toothpicks, completely optional, but I like to add them. I think it just, you know, makes a better presentation. Okay, now we're at this stage here. So I'm gonna add a little more of our SPG right on the top. Get a nice layer of it on there, just like that. And this is ready to cook. We have the Weber smoke fire at 275 degrees. We're gonna put it on the top rack, and we're gonna let it cook for about an hour. Maybe an hour and 15 minutes, maybe as long as an hour and a half, depending on your oven. But I think about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes is generally a good kind of, range to cook it. Again, you want ground meat to get to 160 degrees, so we will temp this thing, because remember, we're only cooking the bacon and the sausage, but we will temp this to make sure we're at 160. Then before we pull it, we're gonna add a little bit of a barbecue sauce glaze to the top, let it set, and then cut and eat. Okay, so we're just about done. It temped at 160 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of glaze on it, let it sit for about 5 minutes, then go ahead and cut into it. Okay, it's all ready. Let's get it off the smoker. Woo! How does that look? Wow, that looks great. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and let this rest for about 10 minutes or so, then we'll cut into it. Okay, so let's cut into this thing, see how it came out. Ooh. How good does that look? Smells just great. Juicy, all that juice and all those layers. And if you look at this, and really what you want to see here is the egg, soft and fluffy. Again, cooking the egg the way that I showed you is, there's no better way to cook a scrambled egg. And for something like this where you're cooking it a second time, it is the only way to cook it. So this is perfect. Okay, so now let's cut some pieces and taste it. Oh, wow. Oh, that looks so good. Okay, so we'll move this piece over to here a little bit. Let's get our salt plate. We'll put one more piece there. Folks, look at that. I mean, that looks incredible. Maybe better like that. So I actually have some fire roasted tomatoes that I had left over. Always a good thing to add, or pico de gallo or salsa, whatever you can put with this. So easy to make, and just look, it got a little bit of a smoke ring on there. Perfect, so I'll take some of those fire roasted tomatoes, put it on top of there. Let's give it a taste. Well, here we go. Oh, wow. I know I say that all the time, but it is really, really good. The fluffiness of the egg, you can really feel that smoothness and the creaminess of it without adding any, melt to it. The cheese, that sharp cheddar cheese is important. It gives it a little bit of a bite. Fried roasted tomatoes help as well. And again, those layers of our SPG rub just makes it, have that really nice, strong salt and pepper garlic flavor to it. It's perfect. The bacon, the pork, the smokiness from the Weber smoke fire, all those things combine to make this just a perfect breakfast treat that you can make anytime. And remember, make it the night before. It's a whole lot easier than to just stick it in your oven or in your smoker the next day. This cooked about an hour and 10 minutes, 160 degrees, a little bit of a glaze, and you don't have to put a glaze on there, but I like to put a little bit just on the top, but you don't have to do that. It just comes out so good every time, and it has everything you want in it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like this video, subscribe to our channel, make sure to hit that post notification bell so you get notified whenever we put out a new video, which is every Thursday. And don't forget to follow us on our other social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it for you. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, with IQ Barbecue, everyone can be a genius in the kitchen. I'm gonna finish off this breakfast fatty. See you next time.